Over 2,500 protests erupt across all 50 states today, with millions defying Trump's authoritarian grip, echoing the Supreme Court's immunity ruling that declared no one is above the law. But what if these rallies spiral into something bigger, reshaping the 2025 US election landscape and sending shockwaves worldwide? Welcome to Global Tactical Alert, your no-holds-barred source for the raw truth on geopolitical flashpoints. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button now. We're breaking down the stories the mainstream won't touch with the depth and drama they deserve. Let's dive in. Picture this. It's November 2024. Donald Trump storms back into the White House with a decisive win, claiming a massive mandate from the American people.
Fireworks light up Mar-a-Lago, crowds chant USA.
But beneath the celebration, cracks are forming. Fast forward to 2025. Trump's second term kicks off with bold strokes, rampant deportations, slashed federal programs, and a defiant stand against congressional checks. It's a powder keg waiting to explode. The No Kings movement didn't erupt overnight. It traces back to the Supreme Court's bombshell 2024 ruling on presidential immunity, where the Chief Justice thundered, "There are no kings in America." Democrats, seizing the moment, introduced the No Kings Act to strip away unchecked executive powers. But Trump's victory supercharged it all. By June 2025, the first wave hit. Over 5 million protesters in every state, from Honolulu's sun-drenched beaches to Boston's historic cobblestone squares, decrying what they called Trump's slide into autocracy. It was the largest single-day demonstration since the Women's March, a sea of signs and voices demanding accountability. Now in October 2025, amid a grinding government shutdown, Trump refusing $1.5 trillion in demands for undocumented immigrant healthcare, the second wave crashes down like a tidal force. Organizers like Indivisible, backed by coalitions of progressives, independents, and even disaffected Republicans, have mobilized over 2,600 events. Millions are expected, dwarfing June's turnout. This isn't just history repeating, it's escalating with ferocious intensity. What if this becomes the tipping point, where a post-election honeymoon turns into a full-blown rebellion? Could these streets become battlegrounds, forcing a nation to confront its deepest divides? Let's get tactical, like we're huddled in a dimly lit war room, dissecting a high-stakes chess game where every move could topple empires. Trump's playbook? Classic strongman maneuvers, the kind that keep opponents guessing and allies in line. He's deployed federal troops to restless cities, overriding local leaders with an iron fist, and ramped up ICE raids, deporting thousands without a whisper of due process. The shutdown? A calculated standoff, pure brinkmanship. Trump frames it as a bulwark against illegals draining our resources, his words echoing through packed rallies, while Democrats cry foul over authoritarian excesses, like redistricting tricks that twist maps into pretzels and billionaire influence that pulls strings from the shadows. On the protester side, it's distributed warfare at its finest. Over 2,500 decentralized rallies, from the throbbing heart of DC's National Mall to quiet small-town squares where American flags flap in the wind. Indivisible's co-founders, former congressional staffers with a knack for strategy, masterminded this with a viral Google Doc that snowballed into a nationwide uprising. Funded partly by networks like the Open Society Foundations, which have poured $7.61 million into Indivisible since 2017, it's a hybrid beast of grassroots passion and strategic cash flow. Critics like Senator Ted Cruz blast it as left-wing violence orchestrated by Soros operatives, their accusations flying like arrows in a heated Senate floor debate. And now, let's peel back the curtain for a quick conspiracy corner, where the whispers turn into roars. Rumors swirl of paid agitators infiltrating the crowds. Shadowy figures allegedly bust in to stir chaos and make the movement look like astroturf rather than genuine outrage. Some far-right voices tie it to anti-Semitic tropes, claiming global elites are pulling levers to undermine Trump's America First agenda. Others speculate foreign meddling. Could Russia or China be fanning the flames online, exploiting our divisions to weaken us from within? Critics dismiss these as baseless paranoia, pointing out that the Open Society Foundations deny any direct orchestration. But the theories persist, fueling X threads that rack up millions of views. What if there's a kernel of truth? What if this funding web is the spark that turns peaceful marches into something far more volatile? Speculatively, the stakes couldn't be higher. What if Trump activates more National Guard units, already on high alert in multiple states, transforming these gatherings into flashpoints of confrontation. Imagine tear gas canisters arcing through the air, protesters linking arms against armored lines, all while the shutdown drags on. Day 28 and counting, with 800,000 federal workers furloughed and desperate. Or if demonstrators block key highways and ports, echoing the unrest of 2020, forcing Trump's hand to declare national emergencies and invoke the Insurrection Act. That could solidify his king-like image, turning the White House into a fortress while the nation fractures. Geopolitically, our allies are watching nervously, tariffs already tanking global markets by trillions in mere days. Could this internal fracture embolden adversaries to probe our weaknesses, launching cyber attacks or trade salvos that reshape alliances overnight? Now, let's zoom in closer, right into the beating heart of the human toll, because behind every headline, every strategic gambit, are real lives hanging by a thread, shattered dreams and raw emotions that make this more than just politics. Imagine Maria, a DACA recipient huddled in her Houston apartment, heart pounding as ICE vans prowl her neighborhood like predators in the night. They're tearing families apart, she whispers through tears, clutching a protest sign as she joins the throng. Her story one of thousands where deportation looms like a guillotine. Or picture John, a dedicated federal worker in DC, standing on the shutdown's front lines with a sign that reads, "No pay, no way," one of 800,000 souls caught in the crossfire, bills piling up like storm clouds, forcing tough choices between groceries and rent. The emotional weight? It's crushing, a visceral punch to the gut. Protesters include weary parents shielding their wide-eyed kids from the sting of potential tear gas, grizzled veterans decrying a betrayal of the democracy they fought to protect, and immigrants fleeing deportation horrors that rip children from their mothers' arms. Hollywood heavyweight Robert De Niro, firing up a rally crowd, urges with gravelly intensity, "Stand up and be counted. This is our fight," his words igniting cheers that echo through packed plazas. But what if a clash turns deadly, like the shocking far-right murder of conservative figure Charlie Kirk back in June, an act protesters blame on the boiling tensions Trump's policies have unleashed? Stories of left-wing terrorism conspiracies swirl like smoke, but the real victims are everyday Americans. Nurses skipping shifts, teachers dipping into savings, families torn asunder. These aren't abstract statistics. They're your neighbors, your friends, evoking a deep empathy for a nation teetering on the brink, where one wrong move could plunge us into irreversible heartbreak. This isn't just America's internal drama. It's a global thriller with everything on the line, a geopolitical crisis unfolding in real time that could redefine power balances for generations. Trump's tariffs, slapping 10% on imports from every corner of the globe, have already wiped trillions from stock markets in a matter of days, sending Wall Street into a tailspin and everyday investors watching their 401ks evaporate like morning mist. Allies like Canada and Europe are pushing back hard, with solidarity protests in Berlin's Brandenburg Gate and Paris's Champs-Élysées, crowds waving hands-off signs as they decry the ripple effects on their own economies. What if the No Kings uprising escalates, fracturing US unity and inviting our rivals to pounce like wolves on a wounded prey? China could accelerate its trade wars, flooding markets with cheap goods while we bicker internally. Russia might exploit distractions to press harder in Ukraine, testing NATO's resolve with brazen incursions. Expert voices like writer Rebecca Solnit warn that protest shapes the world, predicting seismic policy shifts akin to the global ripple from the Inflation Reduction Act, where environmental deals hung in the balance. Winners in this high-drama showdown, progressives. If they force concessions like reopening the government or scaling back deportations. Trump himself, if he spins the chaos as radical left anarchy, rallying his base for the 2026 midterms. But the losers, they're everywhere. The economy hemorrhaging with stocks down 15% amid the shutdown. Immigrants facing deportations surging 200%. And democracy itself, strained to the breaking point as checks and balances buckle under the weight. For you, the American viewer, this hits right where it hurts. Higher prices at the pump and grocery store, job losses rippling through industries like manufacturing and tech, alliance strains that could drag us into unwanted conflicts abroad. Could this spark a new world order, with America isolated on the global stage? Our influence waning as emerging powers fill the void? Or is it just a brief flash before the storm? A momentary upheaval before Trump consolidates even more power. The geopolitical stakes are sky high, a powder keg where one spark, say, a violent clash in DC today, could ignite global realignments unlike anything we've seen since the Cold War's end. But hold on, this is just the opening act in a saga that's far from over. What if next week's shutdown resolution, or God forbid an escalation, triggers midterm meltdowns in 2026, flipping Congress in a wave of voter fury? Rumors are already buzzing about Trump eyeing a third term, defying the Constitution in ways that would make our founders spin in their graves. Stay locked in. Our next video drops real-time updates on whether these protests fizzle out like a damp firework or ignite a full-scale revolution that reshapes the 2025 US election aftermath. You won't want to miss the bombshell expert predictions coming soon, including breakdowns of potential Supreme Court interventions or international sanctions that could tip the scales. If this breakdown fired you up, smash that like button if you stand against kings in America. Drop a comment with your take. Is Trump a tyrant or a savior? Tell me about your city's protest story, or share how this geopolitical crisis is hitting your wallet. And subscribe right now for alerts on the next big twist. We deliver the unfiltered truth straight to your feed. Share this with a friend who's glued to the news. We're in this together. Don't blink. The world's changing fast. This is more than just a headline. It's the world we're living in. Stay tuned for what happens next.